So what do people get wrong about self-control?
What people get wrong about self-control is that conscientious people actually don't have to use a lot of self-control. They are naturally kind of not tempted by a lot of things in their environment. They don't really have to try very hard to turn down the second drink. They aren't tempted to hit the snooze button. They kind of don't run late a lot because they kind of naturally leave on time. So they aren't actually always trying to control themselves. People who are high in conscientiousness have sort of set up their lives and set up their kind of internal body clock to kind of always be at like a Swiss kind of precision.
So are they giving themselves credit for self-control they don't actually have?
Exactly.
Or they won the battle early and it seems, you know what I mean?
They won the battle early.
Okay.
Yeah. So they basically so I am someone who went from having very little, I had low conscientiousness and now I have high conscientiousness. And it basically just required realizing that my life runs better when I am not always late, when I don't eat too much dessert, when I don't drink too much, whatever it might be. And internalizing that and kind of like removing those temptations or removing the urge to not be conscientious.
Yeah, William James was saying that the person you pity most is the person who has to make a lot of decisions, right? That that the more you can do out of habit or the more you can kind of make a foregone conclusion, the more successful you are. But if you're like waking up and you're like, who am I going to be today? What am I going to do today? You better hope you have a lot of willpower, a lot of control, and that everything goes right. But if you maybe win that beforehand by having a strong identity, by controlling your environment or eliminating potential temptations in advance, then you can maybe consistently be that person.
See, this is why I think AA is so successful is because they just never drink. They don't sometimes drink.
Bright lines are very helpful.
Yeah, or they just have one, they just don't. And I think that can actually be really useful because that works so much better than self-control or I'm just going to have one beer, or whatever else, because they just remove this idea that they would ever drink. I don't know. I think that can really work for some people is having sort of a life set up or a system set up where you're just never tempted.
Yes, rules are helpful. And then I would imagine it's rules and then it's a system or a social structure that is repeatedly codifying and reminding you of those rules. Right. You're going to meetings daily, weekly, whatever. And they're like, remember, we don't drink at all.
Right.
Not like we're a club that sometimes drinks and some of us drink more than others. It's like, remember, the main thing is that we don't drink.
Exactly.
And here's why we don't drink. And that brings up another point, which is there's something very earnest about self-improvement and trying to get better that I think a lot of people sort of sneer at or look down on. And I also think that's why military cultures are successful, why AA works, sports. They just say the same dumb cliches over and over and over again, and they take them seriously, and no one is allowed to think that they're better than those things or that they don't apply to them. And sometimes I think people are just too smart for their own good. We're too smart for our own, too cool for our own good. And you just actually have to earnestly be repeating these mantras to yourself. It matters and it works.
So this meditation class that I took, I rolled my eyes at it the whole time. I was like, this is stupid. I don't need meditation. I'm smart. And this class was taught by this ancient old woman and who's trying to do PowerPoint presentations every week. She could never get it to work. The PowerPoints were really bad. And she had little mantras on the PowerPoints. So one of them that I remembered was don't hit yourself with the double arrow.
Yeah,
which is another Buddhist.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, it's this idea that when something bad happens to you, don't then be oh, I'm an idiot for letting that happen, or I'm an idiot for not working harder. Don't kind of blame yourself for these bad things. And like, it sounds so obvious. Like, yeah, of course you're going to feel worse if you blame yourself for bad things happening. But I can't tell you the number of times I have reminded myself of the double arrow and like very earnestly been like, okay, I'm not going to double arrow this. Like, this happened. Let's just move on. It is really helpful for me. Like, a lot of the mantras literally from that class are really helpful for me in everyday life, even though I am like one of those cynical, like, this is dumb people.
Well, and I think people are often very cynical in public. Or professionally, and then when you meet like successful, important, like they read self-help books and they have these little mantras and they say them to themselves, right? And that's probably how they got there, you know. And it's the sort of the openness, the earnestness, and then also like the not being afraid to do things that are a little cringe, you know, like, like, and if you think you're too good for it, you think you're too cool for it. Hopefully you're just naturally these things. But if you're not, you're going to have trouble. Cause it really, it's kind of this, I mean, that's what I think is so striking about Marcus Aurelius' meditations. You have the most powerful man in the world just writing in his journal, like, hey, like, you don't have to turn this into something, or like, hey, you got to get up early, bud. You know, like
believe in yourself, man.
Yeah. Like, and you're just like, oh, okay, that's what it is, you know? And this sort of, we'd rather it be, I guess, somehow more inspiring or cooler or dramatic, but it's really kind of just like those mantras over and over again.
Yeah. And like, so reducing neuroticism has this amazing effect on your life. Like, you improve basically all outcomes, your mental health, your physical health, your career outcomes, your longevity, how much you make, basically everything you could possibly want. Reducing neuroticism helps you achieve it. But the strategies for reducing neuroticism are like so simple. Like, people are like, well, how do I do it? How do I do it? And it's like, positive self-talk, like meditate, journal, write in a gratitude journal about things you're grateful for, like write a letter to someone who like did something positive for you. These are all things that like, you know, are kind of instinctual and have been definitely said many times over the years, but they work.